Now to Paris, where the Rugby World Cup kicks off tonight as the host nations France take on the New Zealand All Blacks at the Stade de France. The organisers have pledged to make the tournament more sustainable, promising more than 80% of travel by teams between venues will be done by train. But there has already been a major PR scrum over the event's lead sponsor, the French energy giant Total Energies. It has been accused of sports washing and greenwashing. Now, Australia's former rugby captain, the flanker David Pocock, has told the BBC that oil and gas firms should not be allowed to sponsor the event. Total is keen to stress its low carbon credentials in its official commercial and says it will be investing nearly €5 billion in renewables by the end of this year. But the chief exec of World Rugby, Alan Gilpin, has admitted there is a challenging debate around them as a sponsor and as a fossil fuel company. Here's a video released by environmental campaigners Greenpeace giving their take on Total's sponsorship of the World Cup. Pretty punchy, hey? It says that the fossil fuel industry pumps even more oil, enough oil, they say, to fill the Stade de France almost 7 times over. So where do you stand on this? Let's bring in Misha Sher, the Global Vice President at the sponsorship agency Mediacom Sport and Entertainment. Misha, this is an interesting one. Who do you think should dictate where the money comes from to fund sport and big sporting events?
Well, look, I don't think it needs to. I think it needs to be a combination of local organizing committee, which is what it is at the moment, and the governing body. This particular decision was made by the organizing committee because it's under their jurisdiction, and I think it's important that we don't just rule out an entire category just because it's potentially controversial. This is a very, very important subject matter. Obviously, it's the biggest crisis that we're facing, climate change. However, I think it's important that we're open to that debate. We're open to energy companies diversifying and moving away from fossil fuels into alternative and more sustainable energy solutions. From what I have seen and from everything I've read, Total Energy are doing that, and they are working with local organizing committee to make sure that they lower carbon footprint of the Rugby World Cup, and that they are in line with the commitments they made under the Paris Agreement. So I don't think it's helpful for us to say that we should not be working with fossil fuel companies or energy companies, and they should not be at all involved in sporting events. I just don't think it's helpful. I think we should engage in the dialogue, engage them in the dialogue, and make sure that they're making the right sort of decisions to move away to more sustainable energy. So,
if Total Energy were regarded as a responsible sponsor, why is it that the chief executive of World Rugby admits that there is a challenge around them being a sponsor and that the model is going to change and the decision would be different in 2025?
I think the decision would be different from the point of view that everything from 2025 onwards is going to sit under jurisdiction of World Rugby. At the moment, the way that the organization is set up is that you have the governing body, which is World Rugby, and then you have the local organizing committee. And because of the way that it's set up, they can make decisions individually. I mean, although they obviously be speaking to each other, in which it doesn't mean that they wouldn't make the same decision. But what it does mean is that it would be made by, there would be one governing body who has certain commitments and objectives, and they'll be making that decision from 2025, and that will be World's governing rugby's governing body.
Misha, we've just had the semi-final match at the US Open tennis suspended for hours because activists glued themselves to the floor. Is the Rugby World Cup prepared for potential disruption, do you think?
I think they'd be ready for whatever may come their way. I think we've obviously, unfortunately, seen instances of this throughout major sporting events over the course of the past 12 months. It's unfortunate. I wish there was another way that we could engage, and again, to my point earlier, to what is a very important dialogue. But I think we need to engage with these companies. They are not going away. They are, we have been reliant on fossil fuels for many years. We have to diversify our energy solutions into more sustainable ones. And the only way to do that is to engage with companies and work with them and make sure that, we're collectively moving that direction, instead of having any types of solutions where we, deny them access or the opportunity to have that debate.
Misha, Cher, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.